Welcome back to Season 4 of the Untriggered Parenting Podcast with me, Paula Sampson Lawrence. Today, my very special guest is Carrie Conrad. Carrie wears several hats. She's a black belt, a self-defense expert, weapons instructor, certified bodyguard, and a licensed PI. But most importantly, she's a parent. And today we are talking about how women and children can become tough targets in this world and how women can keep themselves and their children safe. Let's dive in. So, welcome, Carrie. Welcome to the show. Lovely to see you. Lovely to have you here. Would you like to give a little quick introduction about yourself so we can get to know you a little bit better?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. It's a privilege to be here. My name is Carrie Conrad, and I am an expert when it comes to self-defense, prevention, and all of that relating to empowerment and keeping women and children safe.
Perfect. Now, when we first connected, something you said struck a chord with me, and I wanted to read a sentence actually from your actual website,
okay,
which I think sort of encapsulates our conversation today. So it says here, we fill in the gaps with respectful, trauma-informed, and legitimately realistic and appropriate training as it all relates specifically for the actual safety, security, needs, concerns, and causes of trauma for women and children. And I loved how you sort of highlighted the actual safety as it relates to women and children. So I'll sort of like to start off with, what do you think sort of general self-defense gets wrong when it comes to teaching women how to keep themselves safe in society?
well, when people say self-defense, we think punching and kicking. We think fighting back. We think strangers, trafficking, abduction. We think of, like, how do I protect myself from the bad guys out there? Well, any therapist knows that it's not like things don't happen at the hands of strangers. However, a lot of trauma happens at the hands of people that we know. So we're prepared to keep safe from the bad guys when the reality is it's people that we know do bad things. So punching and kicking, while fantastic, I'm a martial artist. I love martial arts. I'm happy to teach martial arts. I don't teach any martial arts when I'm doing self-defense training. However, as great as fighting is, but essentially that's what it is fighting back. That's what they call self-defense.
Yeah.
They're like, no, it's not fighting, it's self-defense. Well, you're fighting back. You're fighting to prevent harm. You're hurting them first or hurting them back or hurting them, like you're hurting them. But if it's somebody that we know, we may not want to hurt them. We may not feel it's appropriate to hurt them. It could be an authority figure. Maybe the consequences of hurting them are more painful or more, they're worse than the actual incident that's occurring. So quite often, we don't defend ourselves because it's not in our best interest. And that's the unfortunate reality. So you can take all these self-defense classes you want. You can carry weapons and you can punch and kick and you can rock a groin kick. But, are you willing to kick your chiropractor in the groin?
You know what I mean? Are you ready to do it? You might not be prepared. Sometimes it does take you by surprise because you're like, this is my pastor or this is my whatever it is. It's a bit of a shock. So I suppose maybe you might go into a freeze mode. I don't know what your body might do in that moment, but it might not, like you said, want to automatically go to hurt them. It might not go there. So how do you, what do you do then? What is your sort of methodology for keeping yourself safe in a situation where you know the person personally?
Well, that's what we do is we focus on like the mindset and the skills that prepare you for the world. So if you go to a self-defense class, they throw all these like scary statistics at you about all these bad, horrible headlines that happened, and not to minimize the horror of any of that. again, to be clear, not to minimize any of that, but there's a ton that is unreported. A ton of trauma is
Yeah.
unreported.
Mm.
P.S. Let's just say you have a terrible scenario and you do fight back.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what? That's still traumatic. A lot of
Yeah.
people still are traumatized, even if they fought somebody off. Even if they fought somebody
Yeah.
off.
Mm.
So the value that I feel that I bring, like Beating Disaster brings to the table, is we prevent trauma.
Mm.
That's what we're working on, is preventing
Yeah.
trauma. So we can have the same incident for somebody who isn't prepared for it can be
Mm-hmm.
incredibly traumatic. Or it could be an opportunity for you to prove to yourself what a badass you are.
True.
You know?
Yeah. So
It
so what is
depends.
that? It does depend. And what's that mindset then that you teach that you need to get people to shift into in what you're doing?
Honestly, like it's not just one, it's a
Mm-hmm.
series because everything that we have learned about self-defense and
Yeah.
safety and in teaching hands-on training for like almost a decade now, um, the stuff that we're prepared with is actually
Mm.
the stuff that prevents us from seeing it coming, which blows my mind. But it's not the first
Wow.
time in history. It's not the first
Yes.
time in history society's been like, we're sure, we're sure, we're sure. Like, oops, we made a
I'm
mistake.
gonna say,
We're fixing it.
can you actually give me an example of that where we've kind
Okay,
of got it wrong?
okay, okay. Police officers are good and
Yeah.
strangers are bad.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
Are they?
Oh yes. Because you've just said something because we just had a case here in the UK where a police officer abducted, raped, and killed somebody that he'd picked up. And she obviously got in the car with him because she thought he was a police officer. He
We're
must be
drilled.
safe.
It's
Mm-hmm.
drilled into us. The police are the
Yeah.
good guy. They're the good guy until
Until they're
until
not.
a police
Yeah.
officer is just a person with a job. It's the same as going to a restaurant.
Yeah.
You can have a great waitress or you can have a terrible waitress. It's just,
That's true.
it's it's
Yeah.
it's a person. That's a person. Not only is it a person, but it's a person who has different attitudes on different days. It's a
Mm-hmm.
person who might have been a great person and then they experience trauma and then now they're not so safe anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, but when we go around saying police officers are safe, makes it really
Yes.
hard to keep yourself safe from somebody who's supposed to be safe. You just don't
That's
quite
true.
see that one coming,
Yeah.
you know?
Because your courses, I've seen one that says become a better prepared mum.
Hmm.
And I always feel like there's a fine balance between being ready, but
Hmm.
not walking around like you're ready. Does that make sense? Because
Yeah,
you don't want to be in a state of, I'm ready for whatever comes,
correct.
because that's not a normal way for your body or physiology to be in that heightened state of readiness. But at the same time, being prepared for if something does happen. So, how do you navigate that sort of fine line?
Well, it's so funny that you say that because today, like literally today, I went to the park with my kids. The
Mm-hmm.
sun is out for the first time in Detroit, and it is amazing. And
Yeah.
I literally, I'm at the park with my kids. I have three
Yeah.
kids from 2 to 11. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Three kids at the park. There's people there. And I just laid down on the ground in the middle of everything and just laid there and just enjoyed the sun, just taking it in and
Yeah.
just listening and breathing. And then, people are like, I thought you teach safety. How can you do that? You're out in public at a park and you're not
Mm.
paying attention.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, exactly like you just said, I'm not running around in
Mm.
terror. I'm not waiting for bad things to happen and I'm not looking for bad things to happen. When I go to
Yeah.
a park, I have a certain lifestyle that I live by that allows me. I'm confident in my surroundings. I'm comfortable with the people around me. I'm confident in my
Mm.
children's skills. There's a whole lot of preparation. All of this preparedness allows me to lay on the ground
Mm.
and just listen and enjoy the sun, listen to the kids laughing. I hear somebody's grandma is helping my youngest down the big slide. She
Mm-hmm.
doesn't need help going down that slide. She goes down that slide all the time by herself. However, my children are encouraged to talk with strangers. My children
Yeah.
are encouraged to ask for help. My
Yes.
children are encouraged to connect with and enjoy others. We don't live in fear. I was in no way
Yeah.
worried. Now, do I behave like that every day at every park? Absolutely
Mm.
not. It's
Yeah.
dependent. It depends on
Yes.
certain things.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, it's dependent. So, but for today, so like you said, you're talking about walking around, being ready for things to happen. You
Mm.
know, no,
Nope.
I am ready. I am prepared. I do have a plan. I do have, but most importantly, I have a lifestyle. I have a lifestyle
Yeah.
that allows me to live in prevention so I don't worry. I don't
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
things to worry about. When I'm afraid, I take action and there's something I do about that, but I don't live with worries. I don't paint pictures. I don't,
Mm.
you know, I don't. My
Yeah.
children have demonstrated to me that they have enough skills for certain things. I
Yes.
don't give them more freedom than they have demonstrated is appropriate. I don't go to parks that I have to hover over my children in order for them
Mm-hmm.
to be safe. I won't go to that park. There's other parks,
Yeah. Yeah.
you
That
know?
is so
So there's
true. There's
preparation.
ways. Yeah. Yeah.
Prevention.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing is if you're running around in terror, you're not going to be able to see the things that you really need to be looking at.
Yes. That is so true. That is true. I love that answer. I want to just quickly go back a little bit. We know that we as a society sort of have this thing where it's not safe to be a woman walking around, especially at night. People say, it's not safe, this, that could happen, that kind of thing. But if we take it back again to intimate relationships, partners, brothers, uncles, whatever it is, how would you, what do you say about protecting yourself in that situation when somebody close to you demonstrates violence or some sort of attack to you? How do you protect yourself in that situation when it doesn't feel natural to want to hurt them like you might have learned in some self-defense class? What do you say? Do you try and de-escalate or do you try and get away? What would you say is the main thing that you should do in a situation like that?
Don't show up to somebody's house that you know that they're violent.
Mm,
You
yeah,
know? Like why go
yeah.
to their house? If there's somebody that you know, meet
Mm-hmm.
them at a public park,
Yeah.
you know? Like even better, I'm sure you can find a public park that's next to a police station.
Yeah. Yeah.
You'd be amazed.
Yeah.
People with poor behaviors can behave
Mm.
quite well in the right
In the
circumstances.
right situation. Or bring somebody with you, I suppose. You know.
Yeah. So an unsafe person
Mm-hmm.
can behave in public.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're more likely to behave.
Can we go on to children? You said that you don't give your children more freedom than you know what they're capable of handling.
Mhm.
So, what are some things that you have taught your children in terms of being safe in public, even when you're all around in a a park that a public park, lots of people? What have you taught them to keep safe in that situation?
Oh, wow. I mean, I can throw out the typical buzzwords for you.
Mm-hmm.
Situational awareness,
Mm,
character assessment. You
mm,
know, I mean,
yeah.
that's but they've just learned it in a way that's applicable for their age.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Yeah.
you know, like I have seen my children scream at a stranger before, like
Oh.
in an appropriate situation to gain
Yeah.
attention, to get
Yeah.
somebody away. My children are encouraged to, you know, if
Yes.
you don't
Yeah.
know somebody, then you don't know
Mm-hmm.
them. I don't care if it's a police officer, right? Go back
Yeah.
to that.
Yes.
I don't care.
So
So
you encourage them to scream and shout and draw attention to themselves.
yeah.
Yeah, pretty
When
much.
necessary, absolutely. Because, like I said, there are things that happen in private
Hmm.
and they're less likely to happen in public.
Yes, that's true. I had a question actually. Did you Were you a karate student who then became a sort of martial arts
Mhm.
instructor and then you did self-defense, or did you
Yeah.
go about it the other way?
No, I started karate around like I don't know. I was just talking about, I think I got my first belt in like 1992 or something like that. And I progressed rather quickly through the art. I
Mm-hmm.
competed and did well and taught karate for a lot of years. I taught karate for a lot of years and I actually experienced trauma
Yeah.
despite
Oh,
being a
yeah.
black belt and an
Yeah.
expert and told that
Yeah.
bad things could never happen to me. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, well, how did that happen? You know, I mean, it's just what it is. I didn't use karate. Karate wasn't appropriate, or the price of using
Yeah.
karate was greater than the
Yeah.
price of, not. And then
Yeah.
also like I mean it's just what it is. And so like those life experiences, although I still love teaching karate,
Mm,
those life experiences left me like wondering like what's wrong with me? Like how,
mm,
like I must be
yeah.
bad, I must be wrong. They told me, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
that was like a lot of years. And then I had an opportunity to um teach self-defense with one of my karate students. One of my karate students asked me to go teach a self-defense class with him, and so I
Yeah.
did. And like he had answers to some questions that I had, and it was so profound. And then I just had more questions. But
Mm,
like that, the content that he was teaching started me on a journey of answering those questions that nagged at me,
yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And then I was like, hey, like, would you mind, because we have
Yeah.
like a
Yeah.
different, like he's not specifically targeting women,
Mm-hmm.
like we have a different market. So I actually still work with him today. He just has a different market. And so I
Yeah.
teach and I've, taken my life experience and my content and my stuff and, mixed, like I said, the
Mm-hmm.
foundation, those, again, he answered those
Mm-hmm.
questions. And a lot of
Mm-hmm.
it was about perspective, like back to like police are good and strangers are bad. Like neither
Mm-hmm.
of those are accurate statements.
No, that's
They're
true.
generalizations. They might be true often, but they're not true all the time.
I wonder if when you said that you went through trauma and
Mhm.
even though you had that sort of karate background, you weren't able to use it in that moment. Um, Being kind of removed from it now, did at that time, do you think you were thinking to yourself, never again? What can I do to make sure that never happens to me again?
That was what crippled me was because
Right.
I chose not to use karate. It
Yes.
wasn't appropriate for the circumstances. It was not
Yes.
appropriate to use karate. The consequences of using karate were not worth it. It was a
Mm-hmm.
choice. So,
Mm-hmm.
very clearly, karate did not fail me. I failed to use karate.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yes, so in my life, I'm like, like,
Yeah.
if a stranger tries anything with me, like we're good. You know
Yes.
what I
Yeah.
mean? But
Yeah.
it's like, okay, so what do I do? What do I do if it's somebody that I know or somebody who is a public figure or somebody who, because like I don't know how things are in the UK, but in the United
Mm.
States, while certain behaviors may be illegal, that doesn't mean it's worth it to go through the system to prosecute
Yeah.
because like
Yeah.
you're ruining your life. You're
Mm-hmm.
ruining your relationships. You're ruining, I mean, you have to choose. You
Yeah.
have to
Yeah.
choose. And then, oh, by the way, again, here, you're painted as a liar or looking for
Yeah.
attention, and it's
Mm-hmm.
like, what's what's the bigger
What's
harm?
the
And that's
yeah.
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 And that's why beating disaster exists. It's because we shouldn't have to choose. You should not have to choose between being safe and having a job. You shouldn't have to choose between your
No.
paycheck and being
No.
safe. You shouldn't. We do.
Yeah.
We really do. Today,
Yeah.
like we do. Same thing with, again, what happens if it's a public figure? It's your word
Yeah.
against them.
Exactly.
What do you do?
What do you do? It's so
You know what I
true.
mean? So what
Mm-hmm.
happens? What happens to the women who've had who stood up for themselves and spoken up and followed through? What happens to them? It's not pretty.
Yeah.
Even
No.
if you win, you're
Yeah.
still like this is about trauma. And just to be
Yes.
clear, since this is a podcast, anybody who has chosen to speak up, I absolutely support you
Yeah.
because trauma is relative. For some people, it is more traumatic not to say anything, and for others,
Yeah.
it's more traumatic to speak up. So
Yeah.
you have to be good to yourself. Whichever, if you
Yeah.
need to speak up, oh, absolutely. I will
Yeah.
support anybody. And
Yeah.
if you don't want to speak up, I ain't gonna shame you for
Yeah.
it. I don't blame you,
Yeah.
you know?
I I tell you what, because people do say that thing of, oh, why did it take you so long to speak up? Well, maybe I was 20 back then and I was shy and I was scared, but now I'm 30 and I'm feeling more empowered. I'm finding my voice, or I'm not around this set of people anymore, and I feel like I can, speak up. So I really hate when I hear, well, why didn't you say anything at the time? Because I couldn't, but now I
Yeah.
can. It's
Yep.
not really so hard to understand, but people use it as if to say like a gotcha card, like, you see, maybe it wasn't so bad, or you wouldn't have waited so long, or maybe it was that bad that I couldn't do it before now. Now I'm
Trauma
stronger
is
enough to do
trauma.
it. Yeah.
Trauma is trauma. There's no
Mm-hmm.
like, my trauma is better than your trauma. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, get
Yeah.
out. It's debilitating. It's
Yeah.
life-changing. It's shattering. It's not like a more or less. It's not a
Mm.
comparison. There are some things I can tell you that I've had some life experiences that didn't faze me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And people are like, what? And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
It was not traumatic to me in the least. But then I've had other experiences that completely shattered me.
Yeah.
And people can still be like, what? And be like, yeah.
Yeah.
It just rocked my sense of self. It rocked
Yeah.
my sense of the world. It shattered. You know what I mean? Like I needed to rebuild myself after.
Yeah.
You don't get to pick what's gonna traumatize you.
Yeah.
You don't get to pick your levels. All
No.
we can do is
No.
like get to know. I
Mm-hmm.
know myself. I know what I can handle and I know what I can't, and I'll have more of that and none of that.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And so who are you working with? Are you working with groups of women? Are you working with families? Like, who's your sort of main sort of clientele?
Women,
Women.
children, and
Mm-hmm.
families. So I spend most time working with moms. I
Yeah,
love working with moms
yeah,
because what happens is like you talked about, like we have these experiences, we don't tell
yeah.
anybody about it, or maybe we do and we're not heard, or I mean, there's a million horrible scenarios that lead
Mm,
us to just sucking it up and doing the best that we can, you know? And what I mean, a person might know, like for me personally, like I knew I could use some help. I knew
yeah,
that. I knew I
yeah.
had some unhealthy coping. I mean, I'm aware. And it's like, it's fine. It's fine. And then I have a kid. And then I have my daughter.
Mm, yeah,
And I look in the eyes of this beautiful baby and I think, oh, she's screwed.
yeah,
You know, why? Because I have unresolved trauma. And I
yes,
know
yeah.
that the only thing that that baby needs from me is for me to be emotionally available. And that
Oh,
is the one
yes,
thing I do not have.
yeah,
I know I don't
yeah,
have it because of
yeah.
trauma. So
Mm-hmm.
when we become moms, all of a sudden, we are now willing to do things that we would have
Yeah,
never been willing to do before. That's why I love working with moms.
yeah,
I love because it's like,
yeah.
you'll do it for your kids. He didn't do it for you, and that's
Mm-hmm.
okay. It doesn't,
That's okay.
it's
Yeah.
okay. It doesn't, and honestly, even if somebody never addresses or resolves their trauma, dude, it's
Mm,
your life. You get to choose what you do with it. And if you're content and life is working for you, nobody says you have to.
mm-hmm.
You don't have to. You do whatever you want. Live your life, love your life, whatever is best for you.
Yeah,
I really, and
yeah.
that's again, like when you read that sentence,
Mm-hmm.
from my website, and it's because you got so many people saying that you have to do this and you have to do that, and if you were good, you'd do this, and you're bad
Mm.
because you did. It's like, shut up. You don't even know. They don't even know. It's a bunch of people
Yeah,
who have no idea telling me how I should live, and it's like
yeah,
and these are people they've never experienced trauma.
yeah.
They've never, and they're telling me how
Mm-hmm.
to live with mine,
Mm-hmm.
how I should feel or what I should do or what should or shouldn't bother me or
Yeah,
how I should or shouldn't behave. And it's like, get out. So
yeah.
that's what I get to bring that's what I get to bring to this world because you have
Mm,
like generally a woman experiences something terrible. She goes to get help to try and be empowered so it doesn't happen
mm-hmm.
again. She comes into contact with somebody who probably has like a different type of trauma related to their profession because
Yeah,
like the professions that teach you how to be safe or There's trauma.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
then you have their trauma trying to help you with your trauma. And it's insanity. It's insanity. That's
Hmm.
like to take a self-defense class is traumatizing because they
Yeah.
throw all these horrible facts and
Yeah.
realities and pictures and
Yeah.
statistics, and you're like, dear God, I just
Do you
want
know
to
what?
feel
The other thing I
safe.
was going to say was imagine having trauma for being attacked, right?
Mhm.
And then go into a self-defense class, and the
Yeah.
instructor's like, I'm going to come up behind you and
Yeah.
reenact this attack that happened. To me, that always felt a bit, because how
Yeah.
do you deal with that if that actually happened to you? And now
Yeah.
you're reenacting it in a
Yeah.
self-defense class. Surely that's a little bit re-traumatizing,
Yeah, I
or
mean, like
not really?
I don't get to say, but I can tell
Mm,
you the way that I personally that we set up our classes is
yeah,
the first class that you do,
yes,
you're doing it with your friends. We're laughing a
yeah,
lot. We're having a good time. It's
yeah,
everybody's cracking up, having fun, and we introduce you to some things. And then we have, when you take more to the next class, you get to
mm-hmm,
choose. I have a male instructor who is a sweetheart, and, he's very aware, very informed, very sensitive, and
mm,
understands his purpose. And his purpose is to give you the opportunity to do the techniques that you learned on somebody who's not going to let go. Because you're
yeah,
finally let go. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah, yeah,
But he's not going to
yeah,
let go, but he's going to give you that opportunity to say, do you want to do this or don't you want to do this? Because you don't have to. You can watch and learn. It's
yeah,
okay.
yeah,
Just watch and learn. We allow our students to choose. I trust you. If you say
yeah,
you can't do
yeah,
it, then I say, awesome. Are you comfortable watching? You'll learn so much by watching the rest of the class.
yeah, yeah,
Like, where do you get that? You get like, suck it up,
yeah, you do.
You
That is
paid for
so
it.
true.
Get in here. And it's
Get
like,
in here, muck in. Yeah, no, that's so true.
But so nobody's forced to do anything. It's all suggestions. There's laughter the whole way through, and the
Yeah,
value of that second class. Like I said, we learned some stuff in the first class. The second
yeah,
class, now you can see, do you, because what happens is you're like, no, I'm good. This is great. I can do
yeah,
this. And then you get in there, and as soon as somebody puts their hands on you, then you find out you're like, oh my God, I didn't even
yeah,
know. I didn't even know. I
yeah,
don't even know. Well, now this is a great place to
no,
find out. Better find out
yeah.
here than somewhere else. You know?
Just to finish up, I'm trying to think what question to finish up with because I kind of have to, kind of have to. One was, what do you think you give to the women and the families that come to you? Because part of me wants to say you give them that feeling of safety, but I'm not sure that's quite touched, like hitting the mark. Is it more like just feeling empowered, or what's that word would you say, or even if it's a sentence, what do you say, you give to the families that you work with? What are you trying to give them?
Relief.
Mm-hmm. Really? Oh, I love that. Relief.
Relief. Because
Yes.
generally I come across people who've invested a lot into trying to keep
Yeah.
themselves and their family safe.
Yes.
And it's like, watch the stuff online, and
Mm.
it's so terrorizing. I mean, it's just
Yes.
like there's
Yeah.
no way to watch all the stuff on learning how to be safe without like
No.
tense shoulders and feeling
Yes.
suffocated and afraid to go to the grocery store.
Mm. Mm.
So it's like that's what I think I just bring relief. Like, I just help people
Yeah.
chill out. Like,
Yeah.
you are so powerful. You are so equipped. Let me show you how.
Yeah.
Let me show you how. Here's
Yeah.
how you can live. And then anytime things go wrong, it's an opportunity for you
Mm-hmm.
to see what you're capable of. And you're like, dang, I got this.
Yeah.
Oh, that wasn't so bad.
Yeah.
And as we develop that and more, we get more and more confident and comfortable with ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I wasn't expecting that answer, but it sounds right. That I think that is exactly it. So thank you for sharing that. Before I let you go, where can we find you online, and where can people connect with you?
Very simply, beatingdisaster.com.
Perfect. Well, thank
Yep.
you so much. It was great speaking to you.
Thanks so
I'll
much
speak
for
to you soon.
having me.
Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.